Well, good morning or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Camera Life podcast. It is the 22nd of January, 2026. And of course, being a Thursday morning, we are joined by a special guest who we'll get to in just a moment. But first of all, I just want to remind everyone, if you're new here, we go live twice a week, every Monday evening, 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time at the moment, or 9 a.m. Every Thursday morning at Australian Eastern Daylight Time. I may have gotten that incorrect recently, but we'll talk about that later. But of course, today we are joined by special guest, Dr. Dean Holland. Welcome, Dean. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, no, look, the pleasure is all ours. Now, we're going to unpack your story today, Dean, and we'll certainly get to that in a minute. But you've got many branches of your craft, of your photography. And we must admit, Justin and I always like to do a lot of research on guests before they come on the show. And you're a bit of a dark horse. You don't have a huge social media presence. And so we really want to lean into that question about how does a professional photographer, so you shoot a lot of corporate work at the moment, but also you've had a long and successful business with Take Better Photos, supporting others in how to become great family photographers and how to elevate their craft. You're an educator, so there's many branches to what you do. But I think we're probably should we dive into that now, Justin, or you want to say good morning to some peeps? Let's get into it. Hey?
Yeah, I'll say good morning to the chat after this. I want to find out. Yeah, what's the deal? What's the deal with no social media?
How does a photographer with everything that you do, how do you survive in 2026 with limited social media activity?
It comes down to luck, and being almost.
I thought there was going to be some magic recipe.
No, sorry. It's largely luck. I was lucky enough to start the company in 2007, and that was when things were booming, and we were teaching photography, and camera sales were over 10 times what they were today. And we quickly accumulated so many clients. We've taught photography to over 10,000 people now. I have 10,000 clients, and I haven't needed social media. Social media came in after we started the company as a business necessity. And we've got such a base. We've taught over 0.5% of Brisbane, nearly 1%, depending on how you call it. I love to say 1%, but it's not.
Wow, yeah,
1%. You got to round it up. That's 1%. Fine.
Yeah. We've taught 1% of Brisbane. And so I'm the photographer that people know. And their company, when they need a photographer, I know. Who was that course you did? We've had so much physical exposure that we haven't needed it in the Brisbane market. And it's still my entry to most of my corporate clients. They've been on a course. I'm the guy they've met. So It was really just luck and timing. And I couldn't do it now. In fact, I couldn't start the company now. It would just fall in a heap with my business skills. It would completely fall in a heap. But I just got on the right part of the curve at the right time. And I just couldn't do it now.
Wow.
Yeah, look, that's fair.
I bet you could.
Yeah.
Thank you for your faith. But I'm also, as I said, almost a pathological introvert. So the concept of social media is, I just feel on edge all the time, having to keep checking. And I know that I would be a slave to it. So it would be good for me to do it. It would help a lot for me to do it. But I know that my personality type would not play well with it.
Yeah, well, fair enough. A follow-up question for you then. Given what you know about creating a business without social, and given what you've seen in today's market, what photographers are having to do you have a piece of advice for any photographer out there who maybe is starting on how to achieve a better balance between becoming a slave to social media and actually building your brand in a more connected way?
Well, I still think it's about old-fashioned connection. So it's connection with people. If you're doing corporate work, it's knowing the right people in the PR department of the company, and it's building those connections. So physical face-to-face connections, for me, I can speak to and testify to as working. As for how well social media would work, I can't say. If your market is family photography, then through your family, you already have a reasonable market just through your immediate contacts. I find that people can, if they wanted to do wedding photography, say, you can relatively easily start a business that in your family, you might have, and your friends, you might have about $20,000 worth of turnover available just through your networks. But then these days, growth from there depends on your social media skills and your talent to get out there. It's a popularity contest more than it is a talent contest these days.
Very well put.
I would agree with that. Yeah, that we did find that in the early days, I had a wedding business for about 10 years, and Jim, who was my business partner in that, he still does weddings, and there was a period of time where our photography stood out, and that would help get us bookings, and the way that we worked with people, and we were still doing social media and everything, but and then there was sort of a period of time where the photography didn't seem to matter quite as much, and it was who was more popular was starting to get more of the bookings. And not saying their photography wasn't as good, but we sort of put a lot of work into ours, and people didn't seem to care as much about that as they cared about, like, I don't know, who they were exposed to more over and over again, lots of followers and all that sort of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. And did you have like an angle? Did you have a niche? Did you have a thing that was yours? You said your photography, sorry, I'm interviewing you now.
No.
You said your photography stood out. How did it stand out? What was your angle?
I mean, everyone can do this now, but we were in the early days. I remember, so Jim came to a wedding once. We were shooting some together in the earlier days, the bigger weddings, and he brought his Alan Crom studio lights, or like remote battery operated lights. And this was before like Godox lights and stuff were a thing, cheaper lighting, big softbox and stuff. And we were like, let's do a sunset shot. And we got these beautiful sunset colors. I'm booming the light in over, and Jim's taking photos and stuff. And it was those kind of images that helped us stand out, and we lent into that. So sunset became a thing that we tried to do for any client that wanted it. And we would try and get these great sunset photos in 10 minutes kind of thing, so that it didn't take too much away from their day. And then we sort of lent into those different angles where it was like, if it's raining, we're doing rain photos. I've swam in dams to get to backlight a boat while the bride and groom were out on a dam in a little boat, and Jim was lighting it, but we needed a backlight behind it and stuff like that. So just anything to kind of just to get one or two really special photos from the day. And then other than that, it was all just based around work our asses off and have good word of mouth, hopefully. And, what it's like when, the parents of the bride or the groom come up to you at the end of the day and go, wow, you guys are so great. And you're like, you haven't even seen the photos, but just because they've seen us running around and doing stuff all day and working hard, they were already happy with what we've done, kind of thing. So it was basically that. That was our angle.
Yes, you get those couple of hero shots that become your marketing angle, but it's all about client service. Yeah, I know that kind of approach. One thing that I've learned is that those marketing angles, as you say, are temporary. That you are the sunset photographer, but then within 5 years, everybody else is also a sunset photographer.
Exactly.
And all of those external gimmicks, been there, done that, are temporary. I mean, the one thing that, I feel like I'm at an age where I can say, well, you young people, at my age, what I've learned, ignore me and all of that. But
no, do it.
One thing I've found is that it's when there's a thing that really resonates with you, when there's something that actually comes from you. Like my catch line on the website is, I take photographs to change how you see people. And since I've changed all my marketing to be around something that's about me and what I think I do well and what I'm passionate about, I've been attracting fewer clients, but the right kind, better clients, more aligned with what I want to do. Yeah. And that to me has been much more satisfying than sort of chasing the latest popular trend of, trying to come up with something new. I'm just focusing on the thing that I feel that I do well, that I get that good feedback from clients for doing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It is interesting though. And I've been talking to people recently about social media because, to be honest, it's turned into a cesspit of garbage. What did someone call it the other night? Narcissistic. I think Paul called it narcissistic slop. And I wonder how new and emerging photographers, or even existing photographers, are coping with the changing face of social media. You know, I look at my feed and I constantly have to retrain my algorithm to stay out of American politics and to stay out of AI. And, you know, and I just wonder how tricky it is for business photographers, like people that are shooting for a living, to attract new clients through socials these days. You know, we were kind of fed this, that especially Instagram and Facebook was an opportunity for you to market your photography business, and it would showcase your images. That's what Instagram was all about in the early days. And now it just feels like it's just become that garbage pile of stuff you don't even know if it's real anymore. And I say to people, you know, if it wasn't for the photography and connecting with my network and my friends, I would be done with social media. It no longer serves me. I feel like we were talking about this the other night, actually, with Cam Blake. No longer serves us. We're serving it as photographers. So, you know, because they're harvesting our images and all that sort of stuff. Here we go. Paul's chimed in. Good morning. Chimed in with that comment. It was a cesspit of AI-generated sludge and performative narcissism. I love that.
We should get that on a t-shirt.
We need that on a t-shirt.
Except not YouTube, because YouTube technically is social media, and that doesn't count. YouTube's great. Just I hope they don't downrank this in the algorithm or something. Actually, so let's quickly say hi to some people in the chat, and then maybe we'll dig into Dean's story a little bit more. Okay. So Paul is obviously in the chat. Says good morning. Philip Johnson. Good morning. Tin Type Man. Good morning. Rodney Nicholson. Rodney actually said down here, am I the only one that's frozen? I don't know. Are you?
Froze?
Can anyone else see
Is your skin
us?
froze, or is it cold down by the bay?
That could be that. Speaking of bays, David Mascaro from San Francisco. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hey, David.
Who else? Tin Type Man didn't get out for the Auroras. That's unfortunate. Robert Varner. Hello from cold New Jersey. Waiting for another snowstorm. Oh, chilly.
Yep.
Although that'd be cool for taking photos. Very cool, wandering around New Jersey in the snow. Tin Type Man says, wife's just closed the door because it's cold here, 22 degrees C. Yeah. And then what else? Paul got out, enjoyed some pink skies in Canberra on Tuesday night up until the cloud rolled in. Yeah, I also didn't get out. But, Okay, all right. Everyone's here. We're here. Dean's here. Shall we dig in?
Yeah, I just speaking of the Aurora, Dean, before we went live, I dropped a question in the chat to say, did anyone get out to shoot the Aurora the other night? Because fortunately, my social media feed at the moment, especially on Instagram and Facebook, is all Aurora shots from the other night. People getting out and capturing, what was such a miraculous thing to see. And I love that, and I celebrate that for the people that got out there. Does that sort of genre ever tempt you to grab your camera and head out and do something like an Aurora shoot, something rare?
It used to. So I got into photography. I think of myself as a left brainer, and so I got into photography through the technical side, enjoying the technical challenge, and I bug photography and that sort of thing. So yeah, I have gone out Aurora chasing, and I was in Tasmania for one of the most amazing Aurora. The KP value is through the roof, and it was completely overcast, and I didn't see a thing. But it's still fun to do the chasing, and so yeah, I do like that sort of technical photography. Yeah. But that was how I started. But I don't get as much back from it now. I focus mainly on people photography, and I find the technical stuff to be more of like a mental game for me, rather than really satisfying these days. But that used to be how I got into it.
Yeah. So, looking into your work, you shoot, obviously you've got Take Better Photos, which is very family friend orientated. It's about teaching people to become better photographers themselves, which I think is wonderful. And more people should do that sort of stuff. But you also do a lot of corporate stuff. You've done a range of genres in the past. Is there something that you shoot for fun these days?
Oh yeah, people. So I love just people photography. Like a personal project at the moment is called the Stereotype Project, where I'm taking photos of people, white background, out of context, and they'll have something about them. They'll be a multimillionaire, they'll be homeless, and we put them up with, and people have to guess which is which. So you have homeless millionaire, you have psychologist, school dropout, and people have to guess from the pairs of photos who is who.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's that kind of thing that I love, because when you see those pairs of photos, all you have to go on is your stereotypes, because you look, and obviously you can't tell. When you take away the background, when you use that white background as a sort of democratizing thing, and there's no context to go on, you can't tell at all. And so it means the only info you've got to go on are your own stereotypes. And so I put up some of those at a conference, and it was a conference of psychologists, and it was psychologist, school dropout, who's who. And you have to think about it, and it makes you confront your stereotypes. That kind of thing is what I love doing. It sounds like a sort of social warrior stuff, but it's having an impact, because for me, photography is not the thing I do. I do other things, from photography and video are how I do it. So it's kind of the how rather than the what, if that makes sense.
Yep. And I think that's an amazing social experiment. Because obviously bias comes into it very heavily, your own biases about what a psychologist looks like, those stereotypes that you talked about. I think that's fascinating. That's really fascinating.
It's even interesting from your perspective as a photographer. Do you have bias in the way that you're creating the images to try and stop people from being able to guess properly, or do you have any, is there any of that in it where you're like, I need to make sure that this school dropout actually looks quite smart so that people think that they're do you have any impact on that through your own biases? It's crazy.
Oh, 1,000%. Just in who you choose is the biggest bias. School, a homeless person, well, clearly they're worthy of inclusion because they're homeless. And I do a lot of work with disability organisations. I'm doing like an education course for builders at the moment for disability access in buildings. And that's been my main project over the last couple of years. But in working with those groups, I've been asking, I suppose I've learned to ask people, how would you like to be shown? So that while the biases are there, they're not mine, they're theirs. So they kind of own their biases. And, so a chap with cerebral palsy, you can't tell, but he was saying how he would like to be portrayed in the photo. And wow. I found that honouring that is, I've learned the hard way that that's a better way to do it than just having my biases, to include their biases too.
Yeah. Interesting.
So many
how
layers.
Would you like to be shown? I've never actually thought about that question before I photograph someone. How would you like to be shown?
Before I was a photographer, I worked in sort of international development roles. So I lived in South America for a number of years and working with farmers in the Amazon basin, this sort of thing. And one thing I learned is hand over the camera. So back then it's film. But if you help people to photograph their own reality, their own way of seeing things, it's completely different. And then when I came to Australia, one of my early pieces of work was working with an organisation called Multicultural Development, now called Multicultural Development Australia. And I was photographing, it was Afghan refugees who were coming to Australia, and photographing a project with them. And most of the work was handing over the camera and got them to photograph each other. And so that they showed how they want to be seen rather than how I see it. Because when you see an Afghan person, your bias says terrorist, because that's what we've been fed for so long. It's hard not to think that immediately, and you immediately shut it down, and you know that you can't say that, but it's still affecting the way you're seeing the person or what you're thinking or judging how they're moving. But when you hand over the camera, and I got them to photograph each other, they photographed each other cracking up, and so they're the most gorgeous laughing portraits of each other, and that blew away my stereotype. And so now and so it's, we used to call it handing over the stick in development work, but handing over the camera, which is the power to let your biases show through. And they saw each other as fun, happy people. And that's what the camera can capture. It's that, what do they call it? The other point of view gun. The Douglas Adams at The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if we've got many sci-fi fans here.
Yeah.
Okay, the ultimate weapon in the universe was the other point of view gun, where you can shoot someone with it and they see the world from your point of view. So when the invaders are coming over the horizon and trying to take over the earth, you shoot them with it and the invaders go, actually, they've got a point. Yeah, maybe we won't invade today. And this was the ultimate weapon in the universe. And they exist. they're made by Canon and Nikon, or mine are made by Fuji and Sony and all of this sort of thing.
Represent.
And they let you see the world from somebody else's point of view. And that's what it's all about. And yeah, my work is kind of anything that uses that. So be it with photo or video, where you're helping to see other people's point of view and change how you think about them. I am ranting on, aren't I? Sorry about that.
No, it's fascinating. Please,
it's kind of what podcasts are for.
Yeah, we like a rant.
That's why
we love
here.
a good rant.
Don't open the floodgates, but that's what drives me. That's what I love being able to do, and because it challenges my stereotypes, and I grow through it too.
Yeah. And I love that, because it's almost like holding up a mirror to yourself in how you see the world. By letting other people see it for you. Oh, that's goosebumpy. That's goosebumpy. Before we dig into what you're up to now, we'd always like to roll back the clock a little bit and talk about earliest inspirations. And so I guess the question that I want to ask, before you became Dr. Dean Holland, and before you worked in charity and humanitarian stuff, where did photography really begin for you? What was that first spark for you, and when was it?
Oh gosh, I don't know how honest can I be in a podcast going out?
As honest as you want. Truly.
Okay,
it's your show.
So photography was an early thing. So my dad and I built a darkroom in the attic at home when I was like 13 or so, at school, and they had a darkroom at school, and so we built a darkroom together. I'm so grateful for my dad for doing that and sort of culturing that spark. But my motivations were not great for doing that. I'm a pubescent boy. What do I want to photograph? What are all in all the photographic magazines? I want to photograph ladies. Of course I do. No, you don't admit it to anyone, but that was probably a motivation. Then slightly more honourable goals started taking over, and I started enjoying technical photography. And when I went to university, I was studying zoology was the main part of the degree. It's a natural sciences degree, so zoology was a main part. And there was about 120 people in the class, and we asked everyone, who is your main influence? And it was David Attenborough for well over half the class of why they were there. So an obvious influence in that stuff. But I like those sort of high-speed macro shots. Stephen Dalton, Heather Angel, you may not know them, but they're sort of UK photographers, and they were involved in Oxford Scientific Films, who did a lot of the filming for the David Attenborough series, the technical stuff like The Secret Life of Plants, seeing those plants grow and having them come alive through stop motion photography. And my career path at that time when I was at uni was either try to get a job at Oxford Scientific Films or become a primate behavioural ecologist. And
very specific.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I wouldn't take my advice on career paths when I was like 19 or 20. It was not a very broad basket that I was choosing from. But yeah, all of those things that let you see the world in a different way, like that stop motion photography of plants. And I wanted to know how it was technically done. And that's what really got me into the technical side of photography. And from there on, I've sort of built on more personal meaning in it.
Wonderful. And I think I read somewhere your father, as you mentioned, helped you build that darkroom. He was a photographer as well, wasn't he?
No, he was
a misread that. Sorry.
A fitter welder for 26 years, just dedicated to his role, and became an expert in his role in fixing agricultural machinery. So there's always that kind of agricultural background focus, and hence working in those sort of agricultural development contexts later on.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. And sorry, I got that wrong.
That's one.
You mentioned is that a strike? Oh, there goes my bonus. You talked about how your early studies were looking at, apart from your desire to photograph girls and women, but your early studies, there was
spectacularly unsuccessful in that.
I'm still struggling with it. Don't worry. But there was a strong animal focus there. Is that something that you ever wanted to sort of branch off and do some wildlife and nature photography? I know that you've done collaborations with Steve Parrish, I believe, in the past. I know I got that right. I read that several times. Is that where you fulfill when you do those sort of collaborations with, one of Australia's greatest nature photographers? Is that where you kind of scratch that itch still?
Yeah, it was actually, I scratched it more professionally. So the work I was doing, uh, I've lived and worked in the Philippines with agricultural research and rice research, where I was looking at the pests on the rice. So for me, the thing was always that it had to be useful. So at that time, I hadn't kind of appreciated the aesthetic value of photography. That's been a more recent learning for me, how the aesthetic value has value in and of itself. Back then, I was a nerd. I was too much of a nerd to appreciate that. So for me, it was the technical value and the benefit that it did. So given the choice between photographing something incredibly beautiful and the most boring brown moth that's economically important for rice, I'll be, give me a brown, boring moth. And that's what turned me on, being able to capture something that then that photograph gets used to help educate people about these rice pests. But these insects are friendly insects. And it's that photography that had a purpose. That was what floated my technical boat. But the aesthetic sort of awakening has been much more recent. And Steve Parish has been really influential in opening my eyes to the value of art for art's sake. Just the value that it has in itself carries weight as well.
He's certainly a master of that, isn't he? Out of curiosity, how did that relationship collaboration come about for you guys?
Again, another lucky coincidence. It was what would be 2012, and we were both sitting together at a Christmas lunch for a photography club. And so we're sitting together and just got chatting. And he was, because it was just after the floods where he'd lost most of his business. He had a terrible hit from the 2011 floods in Brisbane. And so he was looking for other angles, and teaching and training was one that he was considering. And I'd had a 5-year business running, doing teaching and training. And as we got chatting, we realized that his knowledge of art and what you should be doing if you want to be an artist, and my sort of more technical skills just meshed beautifully. And so we just ran a workshop together to see how it went. And he tells the story that I sat at the back with his notepad taking notes of all the things he was doing wrong, is the way that he phrases it. But then we ran one jointly where we designed it together, and it really went well. And so we've been collaborating since 2013. That's years now. And just running workshops together because we're opposites. I think of him as an amazing creative right brain thinker. He can. We walk down the street together, and he'd go, "You've missed it." I said, "What?" He said, "Look, right there. There's art right there." And it will be the way a leaf is aligned with the pavement and he'll get out his camera and he'll take a photo of it. And I realized that he's got this mental horsepower to see art everywhere that I don't have at that level, because he's been doing it for 6 decades. I've only been doing it for 4. So his eye muscles are so much better. So I've got a man crush on his eyeballs.
Well, look, I think that's fair. Man crushes, it's 2026. Man crushes are good. And I think, what you've just said really circles back to your earlier point about good old fashioned face-to-face networking, where, happenstance, you were sitting at a table sharing a meal with someone and created an opportunity, not just for your business, but for your right brain as well, for your creative growth. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it like that, but absolutely.
There you go. See, we deliver all the good stuff. And if you could put in a good word for us with Steve, that'd be great.
You're on. I certainly will. If you would like him as a guest, I'll mention it.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course. We would love him as a guest. He's an Australian photographic icon. So let's go back again to that, those early days of your photography. And at what point did, was the charity work that you do a lot of, was that always a thread through your craft?
Yeah, it's been a focus, but I suppose it was about 7 years ago that I realized that it needed to be my marketing focus, not just like a sideline. But I suppose I got confident enough in my business and my client base that I learned what to say no to. And so it's always been there, but I let saying yes to so many other things get in the way of actually having that as the focus. And it's been so productive to focus my marketing and say, this is what I love. This is what I think I do really well. You be the judge, look at the photos, and put it out there for what I'm passionate about.
Can you think of any examples of things that you needed to say no to that was things that were holding you back from making that shift, that you had to let go?
Yeah, I suppose I was starting off in photography, so 2007, and I'm insecure. I'm insecure about what I can do well. You've got imposter syndrome all the time because you don't know what you can do well and not do well when you've only done a few of them, like commercial shoots and that sort of thing. And so one thing I've pulled right back from is wedding photography, which I did a bit of, but I never focused on that. And I'll do a bit, family, friends, and you get sort of pushed into that. But that's one thing I've pulled way back from, just because you know how time consuming it is, and you're always trying to justify why you're not just rocking up for a few hours and pressing a button, and you're always having to explain that. Whereas with commercial clients, I find you're not having to explain that. They understand a little bit better. You're not always having to justify your rate or your time frames and that sort of thing. So yeah, the wedding photography was a big one to pull back from, but also some of the commercial photography that I'm not so good at, just infrastructure and that sort of thing.
Okay. So even within the commercial itself, there's things that you'll say, oh, hey, that's not really me. Or would you still do it if it came to you and you just don't market it, or you will actually tell a client, hey, you might be better off using this person or whatever?
Yeah, a mixture of all of the above, depending on how fun it sounds and how well I think that I can do it and be satisfied in doing it. But I do pass on a lot more stuff now to other photographers. And that's the advantage of being in a relatively small city having been there for a while with a relatively large network. You know people you can pass stuff on to. Yeah. And that what goes around comes around.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, a nice little network of people to refer. And that sort of stuff happened in the wedding industry as well. Because with the wedding industry, you're often booked. When someone inquires, you're like, I'm sorry, I've already got a booking. As soon as you develop that little network of people that you can trust to do a good job for someone that you pass on, they'll end up passing something back, and it all works around. So I hadn't thought about that as much in the commercial world. But I assume, it's exactly the same thing. If you specialize in people and someone who loves doing architecture and hates talking to people, they're going to send the work to you, if you send them work that way. Yeah. Okay.
Because clients don't know the distinction among photographers. Bigger companies do, but smaller companies don't. They don't know that people photographers are not necessarily architect photographers. So being able to steer people appropriately helps.
Yeah. Yeah. What does this might be jumping around a little bit, but it's just on my mind. Like, what does your commercial business look like these days in terms of, are you mainly doing sort of more expensive shoots, like multi-day or longer projects, things like that with fewer clients? Or are you even doing, does anyone call you and say, hey, we just need you for an hour or 2 hours, things like that? Like what does a commercial business look like?
So it's a mixture of all of the above, and the fitting them together is the fun bit, the jigsaw. You always feel like you've got too much on or not enough on. You never feel that it's perfect, but it's a mixture of all of those. So this week I was doing headshots day before yesterday. I've got a video shoot this afternoon interviewing builders about installing accessible features in people's homes, mainly toilets. So I've done so much filming of toilets throughout Brisbane. That's not a line to use at parties, but we consider ourselves Brisbane's premier toilet videographers with accessible toilets. So we continue that theme this afternoon. Next week, I'm off to Queensland Parliament, and I'm photographing the sergeants at arms. They've changed over. So I love the way they relate the job to me. They say, we'd like you to take the official portrait of, and oh my word, great, fantastic. And then they say, actually, it's the official cardboard cutout portrait. So I'm taking the official cardboard cutout photo for the sergeant at arms. And so that will be it. The shoot itself, you get 10 minutes with the person. So no more than that. Even that's pushing it. Sometimes it's just 3 minutes. But the shoot is a half-day shoot, including all the setup and the tear down, so that you can do it in the 3 to 10 minutes. And then the day after that, I'm filming grab rails exploding off walls in high speed, again for this accessible thing to show how screws fail and things fall off. So it's sort of like a Mythbusters shoot of things falling apart, and that's
Nice.
part of a big but that works for me because it's technical, but it's part of this big picture thing of helping people live in their homes for longer, because it's this project of modifying homes for people with a disability and older people. So
Wow.
a theme pulling it all together. But actually, when I say it like that, it sounds like I'm all over the place, doesn't it?
Well, so the exploding handrails and that sort of stuff, is that, so that's obviously a big project. Are you, what sort of piece do you fit in that? Is someone like a creative director overseeing that, and you're sort of figuring out how to capture it and show what they want to show? Like, what's your role in the whole piece?
Yeah, that's more the role. So my background is adult education. So that's my sort of professional qualifications. And so I'm exactly as you say, like the creative, but also the technical director for the learning side. We're creating this into an online course. And so I'm managing that part of it. As much as possible, I outsource the filming to cameramen who are better than me. And
Right.
I work with one of our staff members, Alicia Nielsen. She is unbelievable. And her ability to see things better and capture things better, because I still think in a stills photographer sense. So I outsource as many of the roles as the project lets me afford. And I retain that sort of technical coordination, and it's less sort of creative. It's more a technical director role for the content, making sure it's aligning with the learning goals of the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Wonderful.
very interesting. Right. So hang on, you just said staff member then. So
Yeah.
you have staff working underneath you in your business? How many?
Yes. Yeah. So we've got a company, and so we've got one now since COVID. All of the staff are casual since COVID. But so Alicia is our video guru. She is unbelievable. Sort of 10 years experience in Australian drama. She was on Sea Patrol for so many seasons as a clapper loader, and so involved with all of the worst name, isn't it, for a role, but amazing skills she's got. She's worked on Hollywood productions and all sorts. So she is our video guru, and she's essentially taught me how to include video into stuff. And it's wonderful when you work with someone for so long and you kind of make up for each other's deficiencies. I always enjoy going on any kind of shoot, photo, stills or video with Alicia, because it's just fun. I just look forward to it, because I know that she will tell by the way that I'm answering a question that I've forgotten the cable for the blah blah, and she'll go, let's change that. And when you get to that level where you feel someone's really got your back, it's just gorgeous. So yeah, we use her and shoots. And my daughter has just graduated from QUT with film and media, and she is awesome now at doing sound. That's the thing that she loves. So she's going to be the soundie on this afternoon's interview.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool.
Nepotism.
And so,
she wants more nepotism.
Nepotism's fine. It's okay to look after your kids.
Exactly.
So that's the corporate kind of branches we talked about earlier. What about with Take Better Photos? Do you have a team?
Can I pull this up as a good way to lead into that, Greg?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is there, you said to me in our conversations over the week that, 90% of your work is probably leaning into the corporate. With the other elements of your business, are you outsourcing those to other photographers? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so the training we keep very much in-house. And we did try, I had an inquiry from someone wanting to franchise the business, which was the original model in 2007. You start a business and you franchise it. And they wanted to do it in New Zealand. And, then maybe we'd franchise in the US. And because photography was just like camera sales are going through the roof, that actually sounded feasible. But he took one look at the business, and I was most offended, but he was entirely right. He said, no, this business is you. It's you and your team. We can't franchise this because of the sort of knowledge that you've had to develop of cameras in order to be able to teach the way you teach. This is not a line that you want to repeat in public, but I've read 12.
We won't tell anyone.
Okay, I've read 1,200 camera manuals. just to prove my nerd credentials.
Wow.
We produce notes for every camera for how they work and that sort of thing. So they were included with the course, tailored to everybody's camera. But that side of the business is almost, since COVID, that barely exists anymore. We just keep that ticking over. But 90% of our training business is now commercial. So we get the photography work in Parliament because we taught their marketing and PR people how to photograph things with their phones. And so we got a job doing that. And that is the majority of our business now, working with small companies trying to put their products online, mining companies who have hundreds of staff out there but can't necessarily afford to fly a photographer out to blah, blah, to video the installation of the world's largest mill or this sort of thing. Energy companies, people with a lot of staff on the ground. That's the majority of our training business.
That's what I wanted to ask about, because I haven't seen that advertised in my area, and I don't know if maybe I've just missed it because I'm not looking for it or whatever, but I feel like that is a massive opportunity in my area. I work with some commercial clients, and as much as I want to keep working with them, they can't take me everywhere. They don't have the budget to take me everywhere. I'm not available to go everywhere. They're in many places at once, and they've all got phones. And I'm like, is this something I should be offering to people? Is like, hey, I can just, it wouldn't take long. I can, a few hours or whatever, or and you would at least have better images than what you're doing now on phones. Much better. So that's still working really well for you guys. That commercial training.
Yeah, so post-COVID, we made a deliberate shift to business. So our sort of family teachings, while it still exists, the commercial stuff has exploded. And I think it's driven more by the change in attitude to phones, because we launched a phone photography course in 2012, and it was huge for a couple of years when it's like, you can take photos with a phone. But then from 2014 onwards, it was like, of course you can take photos with a phone. And literally nobody was interested. Nobody came on the courses. Then phones started getting much better and much more complicated. And so now people are aware that they don't know how to use the phone. It's not just a button. They've actually got the feeling that they used to have 15 years ago when they bought their first SLR. I went, I don't know. People now have that with the camera of their phones. And so they're aware that there's so much more to do. And it has exploded, and I predict it will not last long. I predict it'll only last another few years before Apple and Samsung make the phones easier to use again rather than harder. But for a few years, people in companies know that it can do the job for them. It can replace a lot of low-level photography. It can feed the social media monster. But for now, they don't feel confident to do it themselves.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I think, and there'll be a bit of a learning curve with phones and AI, leveraging it to sort of get, like you say, low level, like say product shots, sit it on a desk, grab a snap of it, and then use AI to kind of make it look close enough to a product shot, but not at a professional level. But that stuff, as you say, that'll get easier. Apple will figure out for there to just be a product button, and then you just take because that's how it always sort of works. Yeah, it's like it's a bit tricky to start with, and then if there's a need, they'll make it easier and easier for people to be able to do it with one click or whatever. So okay, that's very, very interesting. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think tons of businesses, because there's a lot of businesses. You think of I think of local businesses, smaller ones, like I don't know, what's a good example? Maybe a florist. And it's like they've taken a lot of time to figure out how to use their phone in their space with a nice little setup to get cool shots for their social media. They're probably already doing it. But an energy company with people running around all over the place, they probably they don't care maybe as much. They haven't taken the time. They don't have a cute little window with some nice light where they put their flowers because it's an energy company, so it's they haven't developed those skills because it hasn't been a focus for them. And then
it hasn't meant survival, has it?
Exactly. But
the key difference in the teaching is that the people don't want to learn photography. So those engineers, that they want to engineer, they want to do their job, and the PR department is onto that. Oh, you've got to get photos of it. Like, oh, do we have to? And I've got a room full of unwilling participants, and the thing that I love about training is taking those unwilling people and making them apply it to their photography. And okay, so now think of what you can get with your family and that sort of thing. So you can mesh it all together.
Yeah.
Think how much time you can save with your reporting, and you kind of slip it in under the radar, and everybody wins. And it's that reputation that has let it grow. I think that it works for the unwilling participants as well.
Yeah, that's a good testament to your training ability when people that don't want to be in the room by the end of it love being in the room.
Yeah, exactly. It's no different to like you go and do a first aid course or something like that. It can either be an absolute drag, or the trainer can make you feel like you one day might help save someone's life, and then you're fully bought in. You know what I mean? And you have the best time with a good trainer.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we move forward with and look at comments, I just want to remind everyone, we'll take a quick moment for an ad read. And before we went live, Dean admitted that he knew little about Lucky Straps. So here's the ad read, Dean. This episode and every episode of the Camera Life podcast is proudly brought to you by Lucky Straps, which is also us. But if you head to luckystraps.com.au, Gosh, I got that wrong. Anyway,
I mean, they both work.
They both work. That's right. Head to Lucky Straps. If you're in the market for a handmade, Aussie-made premium leather camera strap made in Bendigo, Victoria. It's local, and it even comes a little Aussie-made, little green and gold label that costs Justin a fortune to be a part of. But it's Aussie-made.
Not a fortune. But
in my standards. But we also make leather belts. And we sell hoodies, we sell T-shirts. So head to luckystraps.com if you're looking for a camera strap for your new piece of gear so you can connect with your craft, or perhaps you just want to look as cool as me, and it's understandable that you'd want that. But that's it for the ad read. That was a terrible ad read, Greg.
That was beautiful. It was well, actually, you forgot the fact that the camera straps actually have our own unique quick release system that we developed that you can put on and off your camera, and then no dongle is left on there, which is pretty cool. Most of the other systems always leave a little dangly dongle on there. Ours doesn't. It's really strong, anti-theft, cut resistant webbing. It's great. Anyway, has Dean frozen for you or just for me?
Are you still there, Dean?
Still here if you can hear me.
We can hear you, but
you're just a bit frozen.
Yeah, you're currently frozen.
Okay. I thought you were dissatisfied with my ad read. You look grumpy.
I thought it was a gorgeous ad read. Let me work out how to turn off my camera and turn it on again and see if that helps.
Hang on, and I'll just try to remove you out and then back.
Yeah.
Back on. No.
Turn it off and turn it on again.
Paul says Dean froze out when the ad started. Yeah,
don't take that personally.
His mate took a stand. I don't know what's happened. Now you're just, it's just dark.
I'm going to restart the video mixer and see, but the audio will cut out when I do that for a moment.
Yep. All right, no stress. We'll be here. Paul says that little green and gold triangle name means a lot and is definitely worth the investment. Okay, well, it's good to know, because sometimes I do wonder, I'm like, does anyone even notice this, or is it, does it not matter? I don't know. Okay, who else are we? Paul says at least the cardboard cutout will fully cooperate. Yeah, I assume, I don't even know if it's the cardboard, cutout that he's photographing, or is he taking a photo to be made into a cardboard cutout?
I think it's the latter. Yeah,
that's what I thought. I was like, surely they're not like, hey, we're going to hire you for half a day to take a photo of a cardboard cutout.
Because we lost the original file of the cardboard cutout.
We don't know how to, and we tried to put it through the scanner and it's too big.
Won't fit on the photocopier.
Another one from Paul. Best part of the Aurora was going to a well-known lookout and chatting to people about a common interest. The resulting photo was blah, but didn't care.
Very cool. Very good attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Rodney made a comment about the Aurora as well. Where was Rodney's comment?
Oh, yeah.
I hesitated and lost it. So we didn't get there. It's so crowded here. I'm going to do coffee and satay in the future. I love your style, mate. Nothing like a good coffee and satay while you're photographing an Aurora. But yes, it is pretty awesome.
What else? And then this one, I'm going to save this one to read out when Dean gets back.
Yep.
What did Glenn say? Commonly used adage for togs is say yes and go figure out how to do it later. Dean has the right mindset of knowing when to say no. No sometimes leads to far better career than poorly executed yes. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it depends on what phase of your career you're in. You know, there is something to say of like learning, but if you're at a high end level, sometimes it's better to just let someone who does that do it and you focus on what you're doing at a high level rather than, whereas when you're learning and you're charging not much and someone says, hey, can you come and take photos of this? And you're like, I think I can do that. Sure. Yeah. And, you know, worst case, you just don't charge them for the shoot as long as it's not something that's, you know, not repeatable or whatever. That's how I learned a lot of things, was sort of saying yes to everything. Yeah. Because then that was the only chance I had to try and shoot something like that. And then I was like, well, that's probably not for me in the future.
And there's also the economy side of the business of photography. You know, sometimes needs outweighs wants. You know, I only want to photograph this, but I also have, you know, credit card debt and bills and new camera gear to pay for. And sometimes when you're starting out.
Yes. And that can be the trap that you fall into though, where you sort of you won't let go of the work because you're like, oh, that's a really, you know, it's sort of an important thing. Dean's saying, any luck, am I back? Let's see, add to stage. I don't know. Are you back? I think you're still dark. Still no video.
Perhaps
you have audio?
We have audio.
Yes, definitely audio.
Can we I have a face for radio, I've been told. I will start connecting in. I'll start if I can restart the USB stream to see if that helps.
You can also jump out of the studio, like exit. There's like a red button down the bottom that says leave studio. You can exit and still jump back in, and we can might help as well.
Sometimes that helps. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.
Okay. But for those of you watching along, whether it be now or a little bit later, we're sorry for this brief technical interruption. But it is a good opportunity to tell you that we've got some amazing guests coming up over the next few months. We're booked out until the start of April, and I think I've even booked the first week of April. So we've got some very interesting people coming up. And yes, we will try and hold Dr. Dean to his word of giving us an introduction at least with Steve Parrish, and we'll see if we can get Steve on the show, because I think that would also be, I mean, every guest is fascinating and amazing, but that would also be a very fascinating interview to discover what makes him tick and how he made it so big in nature photography. It's amazing, and education.
Yes.
But who have we got coming up? Let me just check my schedule. So, it's a good time to tell everyone this coming Monday night is Australia Day. The 26th of January is Australia Day, and we won't be going live for Australia Day. We're going to have a little break. Yeah, we're going to have a day off. The whole country gets the day off. So, you know, why shouldn't we? It's not that we don't love you.
I can't afford to pay Greg public holiday rates. So I was like, no show.
Yeah. just ghosted me on that one.
Cancel it.
I'm the problem. Thanks.
I'm gonna be up the river with some friends, and I could probably make it back in time, but it might add to the stress a little bit. So we'll push it. So any images and stuff, if you've taken Aurora images, we'll check them out the following week. Would love to see everyone's Aurora images, because I didn't get one again. And so if you've got those, email them to justin@luckystraps.com.au, and that will be Monday the 2nd. Yes, Monday the 2nd will be the next random show.
That will be the next random show. And other guests that we've got coming up, guys, we've got Richard Grenfell, we've got Bronwyn Kidd.
When's Richard Grenfell?
Richard is on the 19th of Feb. Bronwyn Kidd's on the 12th. On the 5th, we've got Peter Colson, boudoir and fashion photographer.
Cool.
The 29th, we've got Matthew Garberg, who we met up at Bright. And,
which is next week?
Next week. He's going to be joining us next week. And it's coming up.
I don't know, but look who we've got back.
Hey, it's not a cardboard cutout.
Thank you for your patience. Sorry about that.
No worries.
No worries. You can hear us okay?
Perfect. All good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Awesome. Back in business, everyone.
Tin
Where
Type
were we?
Man said, "Can't you just use a cardboard cutout of Dean?"
It would have more personality.
Oh, no, don't say that.
All right, let's dive back into the training stuff a little bit, because I just want to read this comment out that I brought up before. I didn't actually get a chance to read it, from Catherine Gray 4583. Hi Dean, great to see you again. I'm one of those 10,000 people from Dean's workshops. He was recommended by a local camera store when I purchased my Fuji X-T2 in 2018. Dean is a great teacher.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. Brown paper bag coming your way. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. And that's not my mum, just so you know.
Right. So of the 10,000 people, if you had to take a guess, how many were, roughly, what percentage were of the family and that style, and what percentage is commercial? I assume that's all added together, like over the years. Yeah. Roughly what was that? What's that split, do you think?
Now my heart sank when you said that. I thought you were going to say who was the best or who was the worst.
No. We'll get to that next.
Yeah, okay. Next. No, it was nearly all. It was 99% domestic. Mums and dads, and that was our marketing push, and it's really since COVID we've totally flipped that. That we've pushed more the commercial side since COVID. But all of those, it's actually up to 12,000 now. My figures are a bit out, but it's all of that was domestic, and that set the base. Without that base, I couldn't have built what I've got.
Yeah. So have you got all those clients? I mean, or not all of them, but a number of them on like an email list or something like that you could send an email out to, or whatever.
Yeah, it's the old email list or carrier pigeon, or when you don't have Instagram, that's my fax and Raven. They're my main ways of getting in touch with the client base. Yeah, but there's less reason to be in touch. I'm just sort of updates on things I'm doing. But I used to, follow all the latest cameras and know every setting of every latest camera, and that was part of the marketing. I would be in line in the queue getting the very first iPhones when they came out back in the day, when Australia used to get the first ones back in the iPhone 5 days.
Yeah.
We'd get them 12 hours before the US. I'll be queuing overnight, which I have to say was actually a lot of fun. Get the phone, do the first review. It would go up on DP Review in our website. And that was our marketing done for the year. We had so much web juice from doing those that our website was at the top, and that lasted for years. Hundreds and hundreds of inbound links back when that was the key thing for Google. That floated the business, doing those reviews just for 2 or 3 years when Australia got them first. And I've been dining out on that since. It's like I said, I was lucky to start at a time when you could do that.
There's only a certain amount of times you can be lucky before it's like maybe there was a little bit of hard work and planning and stuff involved as well, and good ideas.
Well, what you're not hearing about are all the really crappy ideas. really, really bad. I just don't talk about the ones that fell over completely. I've come up with some bad. Okay, one of the
examples?
Let's hear about that.
Okay, terrible ideas. Beer and better photos. This was an actual course that we ran for like 3 times. So we got in touch with local breweries, and we do a brewery tour and photography. So we go in there, the local, there's all craft brewers, they come out and explain about hops and production, and we'd sample the beers, and we'd take, you can tell what's going to go wrong, can't you? This is not a well-founded, this is here's an idea rather than a well-founded business idea. I'm sure you can work out what went wrong with that course.
Well, I can't. I'm assuming people. I'm assuming people got drunk, maybe, or was it just too distracting to keep everyone focused on photography at all, or just no one booked?
No, but people booked, but it was all of those problems, and so trying to run a course when the trainer has had a couple of beers, all of the clients have had a couple of beers, and it's like, woohoo, and it's maintaining your professional reputation. It was a good idea, but no. And I've had many other ideas. I think one of the comments people put in there, saying yes to things is a great way to grow. And that has always been my philosophy. I'll kind of give anything a go once, but you're learning what ideas to cut loose. And Alicia, my colleague, she is an outstanding black hat thinker. and I've learned to do pre-mortems on things. So when I have one of my inevitable daily stupid ideas, it's just like, no, we literally do a pre-mortem. We say, this idea has failed completely. How did it fail? And she can come up with 500 reasons why it failed. And if you can address all of those, you might have a good idea. But I have to kill my ideas stillborn. Otherwise, I'll just be off in all directions.
Interesting. And that is the issue. Too many ideas, but also if you hadn't executed on some of the ideas that have turned into successful businesses for you, you might not have anything. So that you've got to. It's hard to figure out what the right ones are, and doing that without trying without giving them a test is pretty tricky. So, that's the beers and. That's clever. And look who it brought into the chat, the drunk wedding photographer. How convenient. Good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. Who said drunk? So you might be able to run that in your area. Give it a go.
Yeah, I want to know where he is now, he or she. I want to know where they are.
He's south of LA, and does film only wedding photography, analog wedding photography with Nikon F5 and some stuff like that. So yeah, pretty interesting business and interesting marketing. Having that business name, the Drunk Wedding Photographer, it really puts his, I'm not going to be a uptight perfectionist. We're going to have a good day. We're going to have fun. This is your wedding, and then does it all analog. So yeah, pretty interesting. We get some weird and interesting cats in our comment section from all over the place.
That's awesome.
Okay, where were we? What were we talking about? Photography courses. You've done a lot of teaching. Can you remember, did anyone rock up with a camera where you were just like, no, like we're not, we can't do this. This is not going to work. I don't even know what this camera is. Like some Soviet era film camera or something. Did anyone rock up with anything weird?
Yes, we had Indonesia made cameras for a while. There's a brand called Traveler, and you can't get the manuals online and that sort of thing. And I've got no idea who actually made them, but it was an Indonesian Traveler brand. So if we couldn't get the manual beforehand, because back in that sort of 2010 era, the companies were putting out dozens of cameras per year. They're all compact little cameras, and I was counting up. It's like 150, 160 cameras a year was standard. So a dozen cameras a month coming out, and all tiny little brands from all over before things started collapsing and condensing into the main players. That's why I've read 1,200 camera instruction manuals. So no, I've never had one that's taken me by surprise because I've been able to get the manual beforehand, or it's clearly inside a Canon or something else. It was clearly another brand. So I've never been completely caught out. I'm just trying to think of a more entertaining answer than that, though, because it's more the study beforehand, which is the boring bit.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I didn't realize that's how you would be doing it. Like, I thought you would maybe, access the manual if required, but doing that as I can see why the business was successful. If that was part of your pre-workshop planning, was making sure that you had access to the manual for their camera, that's a high touch service. That's pretty amazing.
And that's why because the intention, I see if I've got any of those cards. No, I haven't got them to hand. The intention was to franchise it. So we tried to collect the IP as much as possible into products, and so that the product carried the weight. And it was a set of instruction cards, 6 rules, and this is how you implement each of those rules on your camera. This is how you do slow shutter speed waterfall photography, for example, or fireworks photography, and press this button, turn that knob, watch out. If that's flashing, then watch out and set this setting.
Right.
Because the way that Canon and Nikon all write their shutter speeds, and then Olympus, they're all completely different. So we learn the things that you need to teach people so that they can just do it. And then you can have a large class and everyone can participate at once. And we've kept that philosophy with our iPhone corporate teaching. So we can have phones and cameras together now because of these kind of notes. But the whole franchise idea, no, that didn't fly.
Yeah, I've got a question about
training people. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, go, Greg.
I've just got a question about given how much you studied up on products, on camera products, to better support your clients. You've got a huge knowledge base there, and then the opportunity to evaluate how those clients interact with their cameras. What what were some of the biggest misconceptions or misunderstandings that you saw people had between their craft and their camera?
So most of the people that I was training in that big bulk era, people were trying to capture two main things: that they wanted other people to be impressed with their travel photos. That they wanted to have travel photos that everyone would like. So that was a big one. And capturing their family memories and kids growing up. That they were the two things. So good travel photographs that you can share, and their family growing up. So their goals were around those things and behaviors. So we structured the course around how to do those rather than around sort of camera settings. So we always tried to be like Apple, that interface between the complicated stuff and their goals. So we'd only teach them how to achieve the goals. So in our basic courses, we wouldn't teach apertures, because if you got a compact camera, it was irrelevant anyway, because even the best compact cameras only had 3 apertures, and some of them were done with ND filters anyway. So there's nothing to teach, and you can't see a difference in 3 aperture settings. So we kind of collapsed it down so that as much as possible, that was not an issue, that the differences between brands, those misconceptions didn't get in the way. We tried to structure that out, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a similar question. Oh, no, you keep going. No, my question's going to take us in a whole different direction.
Maybe just the follow-up question to that one, Dean. Where did you see your students struggle the most? Like, what was the thing that they really had trouble grasping? Even with more advanced teaching.
Yeah, and I've got a fairly firm answer to that, but it took me a few years to realize it. Yeah. It's kind of confidence to express themselves. People being intimidated by their camera, but also intimidated by what photography should be. And so we literally banned the words should, ought, must, and have to on our courses. So we, in the early days, we had 1, 2, 3 trainers, and this is when we're having thousands of people a year coming through. We had a whole bunch of trainers, and we had to help the trainers not use the words should, ought, must, have to. They were banned on the courses because photography is not about obligations. You have to shoot in manual mode. You should shoot in aperture priority mode. You have to do it like this. You've got to stand up. We banned those words because they stop people from feeling confident about expressing themselves. And so the big thing is helping people to be confident about what the goals are. That people would often say to me that we do an activity and they'd say, is this a good photo? Now, how, and you've got to turn it around and say, well, you tell me about the photo. Let's say, which of these photos is the best photo? And they know already. They actually already know. And it's just helping them realize and be confident, because they think it's a technical subject, and it's not. It's about getting your vision out there, being able to say something with a camera. Yeah. And I'd say that's the biggest misconception, that photography is a technical subject instead of a way of expressing yourself.
I love that answer. I think that's really powerful.
Especially since it follows your arc, going from technical to more creative and opening your eyes into that world a bit more. They're kind of experiencing that arc on at a sort of a consumer amateur level in a very short amount of time. In a course, you're trying to take them from how does this thing work and what are the right settings to, let's take something that looks great or feels great or, says something. I love it.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just projecting in doing that, but and if you'd have asked me that question 10 years ago, I don't think I'd have been able to articulate it like that. But certainly that does reflect my arc, absolutely, as you're saying. But I see it more and more now. Maybe I'm just looking for it more. And a lot of that is Steve Parrish's influence, because that's his focus on helping people to express their creativity. And I've learned so much from that.
Yep. Yeah. It's very powerful. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely somewhere I'm stuck currently mate, I don't think I've always been more about the technical side of photography more so than the, I guess what you would call the emotional or creative side or whatever. And I'm kind of trying to expand that at the moment over the last year or two. But it's always mainly been driven by technique, or how could you capture that, or as opposed to moving a layer deeper. Exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting, Dean. We often joke about that Justin's very much the technical photographer, and I'm very much the emotional photographer. And never the twain shall meet, except for on here twice a week live on YouTube.
Yeah.
You had a question earlier, Justin, you wanted to ask.
I did. Okay, so given that you've read 1,200 camera manuals, you've likely seen most cameras in action and understand them inside and out. I love that you probably have a really good knowledge of how a lot of the camera brands evolved over the years in the way of their product updates and things like that. How did you end up shooting Fuji?
Again, more historical accidents. And so you've got to wind back to, so SLRs and everything, then mirrorless is coming in, and Canon and Nikon don't yet have a mirrorless system. And so we're going back to, I can't even remember, 2014, something like that. But Fuji came out with a pretty credible, competent system. And so at the time, it was either Fuji or Sony if you're going mirrorless. And inside, they're very much the same. You know, the Fuji sensors are made by Sony is what I've learned. And so inside, there's not that much difference. But outside at the time, I could not get on with Sony cameras and their menus of that era. Nowadays, wonderful. But of that era, there was no choice. It was only really Fuji or the tiny 1-inch sensor Nikons, the Nikon 1 system, which I actually liked a lot. And so it was first cab off the rank, and I bought into that and started buying some of their lenses. And the thing that really sold me on Fuji was their ability to instantly shoot wirelessly to a printer. And it's not relevant to 90% of people, but it transformed what I could do in my people photography, because I could take a picture and then within 20 seconds, you're handing someone a credit card size print of that, just out of the printer in your pocket. It's all wireless, and it was delicious.
Oh, you mean like the Instax printing? Yeah.
And you can do, and it works internationally, because I'll be doing work overseas and travel overseas and taking people pictures. If you hand someone this sort of credit card size thing and start shaking it, that is the international symbol of I'm handing you a Polaroid. Because otherwise it's just a blank piece of paper. They think, who is this nutter who is just handing me a blank card? And you shake it and give it to them. And the beautiful thing about those Instax, I love it to bits, because you watch it emerge over about 30, 40, 50 seconds. You start to sit, and the grin on their face. So many of my clients I'd have language difficulties communicating with, because they're refugees or they've got cognitive issues or this sort of thing. This Instax system with the Fuji cameras gave me an ability to say, I am not just taking your photo, I'm giving your photo as well. It completely flipped the dynamic, and it instantly shows that you care about them. And you give. So my wife took me on a 40th birthday holiday in Cambodia. It was amazing. And I took those, I took the worst lens that you take on holiday, the 70-200 equivalent. And I went around Siem Reap. I mean, it's like a bazooka. You feel like invading infantry with this thing. And we went to the most touristy place, like in Siem Reap. And I photographed all the street vendors on the 70-200 at night. But everyone I'd take the picture, I'd hand them the print as well. And as they watch it emerge, you see the smile emerge. They call all their friends over. Now all their friends want photos as well. And everyone's laughing and wanting pictures. And I'm in my happy place. This is the kind of photography I love doing. And I spent such a fun night. I've got such fond memories of just shooting those people and the smile. The next day, I'm walking down the most touristy place on the planet, the main street of Siem Reap, and everyone's calling out, "Hi, Dean, come in, have a cup of tea." And they're giving me free products from their stalls. We're chatting about marriage and life. And in the middle of the most touristy place on the planet, this little Fuji camera and Fuji printer have flipped the connection completely. And I'm having a moment that I've cherished for life, as that sort of genuine connection, that a camera always gets in the way of that, but these helped it. So that's a really long answer to say why I've stuck with Fuji until their latest firmware update that has broken the link between camera and printer. And I am fingers crossed that they're going to release a printer that brings it back. but I'm staying on old firmware, so I can still do that work because it's such a biggie for me. It's transformed the way I can interact with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's very
firstly,
powerful.
that's probably the best answer we've had, I think, for choosing a particular camera system and then and why you stuck with it. But so what happened with the printer? Is it an older printer and it doesn't work with the new firmware or something? Like, why is that stopped?
I'm not. My understanding of it is that European regulations around security of Wi-Fi have trickled across the world, and so Wi-Fi needs to be more secure, and those older printers don't have that security.
That's
I'm
fair
hoping
enough.
they'll have a new printer.
Someone could steal a Polaroid. That could be disastrous if someone printed something, without your knowledge. It could be life-changing.
Absolutely. I wouldn't want a covert agent stealing my photos.
No.
Doing the spy's job for them.
Yeah, hopefully they can figure that out. That does sound very cool, especially if it works so seamlessly. Like, not because that's the thing. You know what is? I've got a Leica. I'm actually lending it to someone today. And the best thing, even though it's an amazing camera, amazing lens, the image quality is insane. It's a Q3. The actual best thing about it, the Leica app works really well. And I haven't tried the Fujifilm app. I assume it's pretty good, but like the Canon ones and stuff, they're just like connecting, and it's always like you press pair on here and then pair there, and then is it working, and then what's it doing, and all that stuff. And I'm like,
the Fuji app has improved. It went through a few years there where it was shocking, and like Dean, I've done the shot straight from my what would I have been using? Probably one of my XT models, straight to the Fuji printer at parties, and I would take the photo and say, if you head over to that table, your photo will appear on that printer, and there's a photo album and a pen. Stick it in the photo album and write a message to the birthday boy. And it was such a hit. It was such a hit.
Instead of people taking their own ones with the little Instax cameras, you were running around grabbing the shots, and then they're just appearing next to the guest book. That's awesome. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny that we're talking about this now, because that first time I used that was at a party 9 years ago for a 21st for a friend of the family. So I shot their son's 21st, and tomorrow night I've been invited back to shoot their 30th.
That's
9 years later. So that's
and now the printer doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm not doing the printer this time. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. Going over and changing. Anyway, but it was good because the client, my friend, still got a USB stick full of high quality, Fuji quality images, as Justin would like to say. But the guests had this instantaneous response, and there's a guy I follow, a couple of guys I follow on Instagram. One of them's in Italy, and he goes around photographing because he's near the Vatican. There's because there's the Vatican has their own guards and police system, and because they're kind of identified as a bit of a separate state, and they often wear uniforms that are centuries old. The design is centuries old, and this photographer goes around photographing them without their knowledge. And then he'll print them on one of those Canon selfie printers, and he has a bag full of little black frames or white frames, puts them in and hands it over to the person. And the reaction, the connection that they make in those moments is just absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I have a question about gear, actually, Dean, if you'll indulge me for a moment. Given how much you've seen about cameras and their evolution over the years, where do you see camera technology going next?
My crystal ball isn't that good. I used to be better at that. I've got a better handle on where I think phones are going, because I think because that's driving more of my business. Yeah. And camera, it sounds odd, but I'm fairly satisfied with cameras now. I suppose it's because the first professional camera for me was a Nikon D200, then a Nikon D3, and that 12 megapixel full frame. It's still, I did billboards with the thing, and the modern cameras have so much more croppability, so much better focus, but those are rarely the limits of the thing for me. I can still do a lot of work with an old Nikon D3 if I need to, so I'm fairly satisfied. It's rare that I need something a lot bigger, and the other advantage of Fuji is that their professional system is amazing. So Neil Pash at Fujifilm has been incredible with loans of Fuji GFX for when I need those.
We love Neil.
Yeah, just amazing.
Interesting. So they'll loan GFXs.
No, not to you because you're a Canon shooter. They'll lend them to me.
I know,
but I have.
But I might
had all
switch. I might switch.
Oh yeah, I'll put in a good word for you.
So I was actually going to ask you about before we get into where phones are going to go, because I do want to hear that. I was going to ask you about like what gear you're shooting with for your commercial work with Fuji now, and whether it was GFX or X series, or so it sounds like it's mainly X series, but GFX when required.
Yeah, so I'm still running sort of 3 systems, but Fuji is the main one. So it's the Fuji X system. So XH2S is the main camera, XT4, XT3, X Pro as well. So a range of cameras. And the XH2S is so good at video. So that will be the A cam for the video shoot this afternoon. It's just great. And XT4 is good as well. I still have a full frame Nikon system for when I need a little bit more resolution, but it's largely gathering dust because even though they're half frame, the Fujis are pretty much there. And it's really my Dumbo's feather, I feel like I ought to be doing full frame rather than actually needing it, because the Fuji's are good enough for 90% of the work. But then as a backup, because I've got a lot of clients and a lot of contacts, I tend to borrow medium format, because you guys over in Melbourne and Sydney, you can rent them easily. Over here, it's actually a pain. There aren't good, certainly not for Fuji, there aren't many rental systems for medium format. So Neil has been amazing at Fujifilm with, I had a big shoot at Parliament, opening a Parliament over a week, and lent me a GFX system and a whole bunch of lenses for it. And it was 100 megapixels of joy. It was just gorgeous. So
I just saw a rumor. One of our past guests and friends of the channel, Nev Clark, he shot me a rumor this morning that Fujifilm are developing a 180 megapixel sensor for their future GFX.
What?
That's just overkill.
What are we doing?
I know.
What are we doing?
Is that the new race to see who can get as high as they can with megapixels?
Well, I kind of hope they do. I think that would be amazing, because then the 100 should be a little bit more affordable for me. So that if the 100 becomes their like base model, and the 180 becomes a new flagship, then maybe I could get a GFX. So yeah, do it, Fujifilm.
We dare you.
Extra 180, I dare you.
I'm happy with 100. 100's is enough.
Yeah, it's 100
would be
my computer my new computer can barely handle the 100 files.
It's you're spot on with cameras being good enough. So I have a Canon system, Canon R5 Mark II and a Canon R3, which are 2 high-end Canon cameras. The R5 Mark II is 45 megapixels, amazing. Amazing in every way, video, photo, everything. And then I recently got the R6 Mark III, which just come out, and I'll get rid of one of the other cameras. And it's more of a mid-range, I don't know what you would call it. It's like I call it like the working photographer's camera. Like it's everything you need, and it's not the top of the range price point. I've been shooting with it for some professional work over the last few days, and it's 33 megapixel or whatever it is, 32, and it is everything you need. The video is insane, the autofocus is insane. It's like, I don't know what you couldn't do with this other than super high end commercial where you need your medium format, or super high-end video where you're probably using cinema cameras, or super high-end maybe sports where you want the flagship $12,000 sports camera, Canon R1 or whatever, Sony A1 Mark II. But otherwise, it's just like, I don't know what else you would want it to do. I don't know.
That's it, exactly. And I'm guessing that's a part of the reason why sales for SLRs now have 10% of what they were 15 years ago, in that people are satisfied and are now turning to the phone instead.
All right, so tell us about phones.
Circle back. Where do you think phones are heading? Phone cameras.
What I'm realizing is that, so when I did the review of the iPhone 15, it doesn't have the same Google Juice impact as it used to, but testing it out, seeing how much AI is going into the photo editing. And there's a I heard an analysis of what's going on, that there is a lot of AI processing going on. You can consider your photo that the phone takes as a seed for AI to improve it. So the issue going forward is not so much sharpness and quality as veracity, truth. And I did it. I had, straight after doing that, I had 2 forensic photographers coming on my iPhone course, and they were wanting to see, can phones or iPads be used to do forensic photos? You know, a crime scene, that sort of thing. Most of it's a scan these days, but can you get the photos with just a phone or an iPad? Is it good enough? And technically, yes. But I did some tests, and I've got the results up on the website. I photographed a fingerprint, not mine. I photographed a fingerprint, didn't want mine on the web, and found that there's a certain size in getting close to, if it's sort of fairly low res, if the ridges and troughs of the fingerprint are similar to the sort of pixel pitch, it invents different fingerprints each time, was what I was finding. So you shoot it with an actual camera, and you see a fingerprint with a veil of random noise across. Take 10 photos and you get random noise across it. Shoot it with a phone, and because there's some AI going on, and I don't pretend to understand all of this, it looked a bit like different fingerprints in each time, rather than a static fingerprint with a veil of noise over the top. So I'm seeing it more as the photo you take is kind of like a seed for the AI, which enhances it to make perfect sharpness and perfect everything. But you're losing the truth when it comes down to a certain degree of detail, and it only affects the finest detail on the picture. But my interpretation was, I can't trust that, because it's different in each photo.
It's a really interesting thing, because so I was doing some commercial photography editing yesterday, and I needed to remove some stuff, just some, like, there were some wrinkles in the floor that they didn't want there, no problem. And like Lightroom's AI remove stuff is so good now, most of the time. Sometimes it does silly things, but almost all the time it just saves a ton of time that you otherwise would have had to manually edit. And there was, I wish I could actually bring it up because it was quite crazy. There was a reflection on a machine that was like a control panel with 6 buttons. What the buttons did on this is like a compressor that would go in a mine. So it's quite like industrial, big button, you know, lots of warnings and all this stuff on this panel. And then the panel had a stark white light reflection just running through it that was distracting. And I wanted to get rid of it, and I did not have the time to like Photoshop it properly. I was like, it's not, because it wasn't, they're throwing it in a tiny little PDF. It's not relevant for it to be perfect. And I just tried their AI remove, and it did an amazing job. One click, thing went, and it was running through the buttons and the words and everything, and the buttons were still in the same place. But like in one of the generations, the button was red, and in the other one, it was green. And in one of the generations, and in most of the generations, the word above the button was kind of nonsensical. It looked, for the photo, it was fine, but you zoom into, 100%, and it didn't quite, you couldn't read it. It was just sort of like random lines that kind of look like a word. So yeah, it's very interesting with stuff like that. It's like, that's cool if you're doing it knowingly, but when that stuff's happening unknowingly, how far will we step away from reality at the push of a button on a phone photo when you're just taking a photo of anything? You know? Yeah, that's very interesting that you noticed that and tested it with fingerprints. That's really interesting. Yeah.
It is very intrusive, isn't it, on smartphones? You know, like I just downloaded the latest because I've got the 17 Pro. It's amazing. I'm trying to take my my Fujifilm X-T5 out as much as I can whenever I leave the house, because I just love having that on me, on a lucky strap, by the way. But when I don't want to carry a camera and I just want to have my phone in my pocket, they are amazing for capturing whatever you want. But I downloaded the latest update yesterday, and everything I've gone to do on my phone since has popped up with a prompt saying, hey, this is Apple's new intelligence AI. We can do that for you faster and simpler. basically it's what it's saying, and everything is coming up with this, and it comes up on the screen with like a little rainbow text to sort of stand out from everything else, and it's just become so it's become so intrusive in everything that I'm trying to achieve. It's trying to take over. It's like, no, I still know how to write words, and I don't need you to summarize my emails. I can actually read them. You know, I still have all those basic core human functions going on.
You know, it's so funny. The first time I ever read an AI summary was like 2 days ago, because I got forwarded this insanely long email chain with no, you know, when, has anyone ever forwarded you an email with no context? There's no like, hey Dean, just a heads up below, here's the chain of blah, blah, blah. It's just the forward of like 30 emails. And I was like, what is this for? And then I read the summary, and it's like, oh, 2 weeks ago, so-and-so requested that this be delivered to this, but then it didn't, you know, and then I was like, oh, this is actually really, it's the first time I'm like, was really handy. Would have taken me 10 minutes to read this stupid email chain.
Oh, poor you.
So I could have just replied and said, what is this? But anyway.
So it's actually, I'm yet to find it be useful. Mainly it's summarizing my spam for me. So it comes up with these gorgeous AI summaries of what the spammer wants me to learn. And there's a special offer for you. It's like, oh no, come on. But I am so with Greg on this. But yes, is it bad for me that I'm feeling personally insulted by that it wants to do that for me? I'm so with you, Greg.
No, a little, most definitely.
Maybe it's okay. So what's your take on? Do you use AI at all in your business in any way at the moment? And what's your take on it? And give me some thoughts.
Yeah, I do. Obviously, there's the AI replace things, and you know, being ethical about that where it's needed and that sort of thing, litter removal from photos and that kind of stuff. So all of that stuff in AI. I do lean on ChatGPT. I call it my husband. For solving technical issues. So when
you need mansplaining.
No, it's not. Don't rely on it for that. But it's more like, I can't connect my MacBook to the blah blah blah. Can you troubleshoot that for me? And it comes up with a beautiful stuff. Oh, I love it for that. So I rely on it as a husband. I'm writing a book at the moment about training, and I use it for black hat thinking. So I'll put up an idea, and I'd say, pretend you're an academic critiquing this from a constructivist philosophy, or take some tone and critique it from that angle. Now critique it from that angle. And it is awesome at Black Hat. I love it for shooting down ideas. I don't like it for generating ideas, because I find it just regurgitates the whatever's most commonly thought, rather than necessarily having the nuance. But for shooting down and pretending to be a critic, it is awesome.
Interesting. Okay,
that's a good approach. I really like that.
Yeah. The other thing. So there was all this controversy about AI editing about a week ago, because I think, what's the big show that was just in the US, Greg? Do you remember? It's like imaging something. I don't know, the big US trade show.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. Sorry.
Just happened. Hang on, it's right here. It is Imaging USA 2026.
Oh, so creative.
Yeah. So now
my bias is showing through.
The AI editing, there's an AI portrait and headshot kind of editing software called Avoto. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or used it. I hadn't really heard of it. Apparently it's quite a big thing. And they got in trouble because they specialize in, like, if you're say a portrait or headshot photographer, it's AI based tools to really quickly retouch at the level of Photoshop retouching, but just with like click a button and then maybe tweak it afterwards. So it might be like skin, and it breaks everything down, and like the stuff that's available in Lightroom, it's like that times 10 or 100 or whatever in terms of how quick it is and how well it works for that sort of stuff, like skin smoothing or like blemish removal from skin without just wrecking it and making it super soft or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, they got in trouble because they released a tool that was basically like upload your photo and get an AI generated headshot, no need for a photographer now kind of tool. And obviously all the commercial headshot photographers that pay them to use their software were like, hey, what do you basically, will you training your system on our images, and now you're just kind of getting rid of the photographer completely. And it went pretty crazy. A lot of people, lots of comments online and all that sort of stuff. But it turns out and this is just when marketing doesn't talk to anyone, turns out this AI headshot generator tool was not even their system. It was like a white label AI headshot generator tool, and they put it
kind of thing.
off the shelf, and they put it out as an SEO play, because that's how you get SEO for, being an AI editing company, by having a page where people can do free, like, drop your headshot stuff. It's like the free everything that you can get online. It's like, I need to convert this to this, and there's a free page for it or whatever. And so it was an SEO play, not related to their system. No images have been nothing's been trained on any of their professional photographers' images or anything like that. But by then it was almost like the damage has been done. Anyway, long story short, to make this funny, I've now downloaded the software. I'd never heard of it before. It's amazing. So I guess all publicity is good publicity, because I'm actually wondering whether they will have seen a spike in users after this disaster, because I hadn't heard of it. I downloaded it. I've been trying to do some pet photography on like seamless colored backdrops. One click, all pet hair on the backdrop gone.
Hey.
Perfectly just gone. One click. I was like, this is insane. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't know how to feel about AI. It's pretty amazing, but it's also concerning.
And are you finding the pet photography to be going okay? I'm sorry, I'm curious now about, because I reckon that's an exploding area, is my impression.
I really, it's only just an initial start. I've got a plan to launch the business this year. I've done pet photography in the past, but it's always just been like, while I was doing weddings, someone was like, hey, can you take some photos of my pet or whatever, or our family with our pet? Whereas this, I really want to have a particular brand and look, which I've never done before. And I think it will go well, but I've literally done a test shoot and some other testing, and I'm going to do 10 test shoots and then launch the business. And I'm getting some guidance from one of our podcast guests, Alex Kearns, who's a very well-known pet photographer in Perth and just Australia-wide. And so, yeah, that's the plan, is to launch it. So I can't answer that yet. Hopefully I can answer that for you by the middle of the year as to whether it's going to be, because it's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be tough. The hardest thing for me is I don't have a dedicated physical space that's really required to give that high-end service of a portrait studio style thing for dogs. So I'm actually contemplating a trailer, like a mobile studio for dogs. But I don't know. Have you had any? Is there anyone in your area that you know of that is successful doing it, or that you've come across?
I'm seeing that it is a growing side of business. So people who approach me saying, I would like to start a photography business, what should I do? One of the things I've been suggesting they look at is that. And now it's getting rarer that people just approach me with I just want to make money in photography, how do I do it? And that's not generally something I'd recommend people follow if that's their initial motivation. But pet photography I've been seeing as a bigger thing. And I've worked with some animal handlers and for taking some photos of their animals. And I took the approach of going out on site and bringing the lighting. So I treated it as a portrait shoot. And then there's the problem of handling rather than at the studio where it's more contained and more controlled. But I enjoy doing things on location. And that was a shoot where I learned that you don't lie down in front of 30 dogs. And that is a very bad thing to do. And but the photos were fun. And some of them are in focus.
It is. It's very interesting that you just go to that point of the dog doesn't know what is happening and doesn't care. They just want to get pats and treats or lay down and do whatever they want to do. And you've just got to figure out how to work around it. It's kind of fun in that regard. I like it. And I love dogs. So that's why it's sort of gone that way. But what I worry about with the AI side of things is there going to be a point where someone can take a photo of their pet on a phone and then they can AI it to what would be the equivalent of a high-end portrait studio shot of their dog. And what I always get back to is, yes, it might be good enough for what they want, but it won't be, the fur won't be the fur of their dog. It will be what AI thinks the fur of their dog would look like if it was shot with a 100 megapixel camera, which it wasn't.
And studio lighting.
And
all of
studio
that.
lighting, which it wasn't. So while it could still be, it could still look great enough to put on your wall and close enough to your dog that you don't care, but it won't be exactly your dog shot by a professional photographer. What is that? Is that sort of where your thinking is?
100%. And I'm so keen to find out the answer to this, because clearly the AI is going to get so that it can do that easily. I've got no idea what the time frame is, but that is absolutely obviously going to come. And the answer is going to reflect my faith in humanity. Because is it that people want a photo that's good? Because all the visitors would go, oh, that's an amazing photo of the dog. And it will satisfy I can impress other people with the photo. But we know that it's not our cat. That is not my dog. That's not. And so whom are we putting it up there for? I think becomes one of the interesting questions. And so if it is for yourself, then you need an actual photo. The AI stops it being authentic enough to be satisfied with it. So I so want to know the answer to that very question. And good luck with the business. I want to come back in 6 months and find out how it goes.
It's exciting. It is exciting. I love a new project. Something to get distracted by that may or may not work. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah, that's what I need my black hat thinking. Good calling.
And don't worry. That's why I get excited about something, and then my own brain at a different point will be like, is this just going to get taken over by AI in a year anyway? Is it all a waste of time? Because why would anyone spend the money on this when AI could just do it for free? Or I do it to myself.
Isn't that an existential angst for all photographers though? Because we know that's coming. We're staring down the barrel of so much of what has traditionally been photography going exactly the way you're talking about the phone and the pet photography. So I love that it distills it down to the essence of what's actually important. So I'm concerned about it, but I'm not scared of it. I'm kind of enjoying the disruption that it creates because it's also democratizing. Anyone can take good photos now. And it just, I always think technology just amplifies whatever's inside of you. And so it reveals what's inside you by what you choose to point the camera and what you choose to elevate and celebrate with that photo. So I'm actually quite enjoying the revolution. But it feels like a roller coaster, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it does. And I think, it really challenges authenticity. And I wonder whether we'll get to a point where it's not just about, hey, do you like my photo of my dog? But can you believe AI did that is the conversation point, not the actual quality of the image or that, there's my dog, let's celebrate my dog. It's more about, hey, see that photo? Yeah, I made that with AI. Like it's almost a bragging right that I could get something so good by not actually doing anything myself, And I think there's some things where I have, I don't know about you, Dean, but I have objections to about AI, especially around, there's the harvesting of images and all of that. But when people use AI for nefarious image making that impacts another person, and we've seen that, and I've talked about it in the past. In fact, I left one of my clients because of that. I'm a writer as well, and they wanted me to do articles about the glory of AI and how good it all is, so they could sell ad space to just these sorts of software companies. And so I parted ways with them on moral and ethical reasons. But one of the softwares that they wanted me to review was one where you can take a selfie or a photo of someone, and it's an app, and you can put your face and likeness on anybody in any situation. And so here in Melbourne, we had some school kids who were creating fake porn for fellow female students and female teachers, and they were consequently, punished and expelled or whatever it was that took place there. But it's that sort of stuff that worries me, where we lose authenticity, and authenticity is given up over shock value.
Which it is the thing though, because it's like that's been able to be done in Photoshop. It's just the
Yes.
barrier was higher. You know, like the kids are going to go and try and find the material, then they got to try and make it look reasonable. Whereas AI in a snap did it for them, and they didn't.
And
have to
Photoshop
think.
is a subscription. It costs money. Most of these apps were free because of advertising.
There's free apps now that could do it,
yeah.
but it's more just the amount of effort that it would take. They might get distracted and be like, oh, maybe we're not going to do this, or maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Whereas AI is kind of like, it's kind of like letting them carry around a loaded gun instead of just having to get angry at someone and try and have a fist fight and then realize that was a bad idea. You know, like in an instant they make a bad decision. So
it's very true.
It just amplifies the consequences, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I also worry about client faith, or customer faith in how we're handling their images. Are they getting back these images and I'm actually not a good photographer, I'm just using AI to make them look good? Questioning our authenticity as well as creatives. And it's kind of like another generation of that whole thing. When smartphones came out, I remember people asking me for quotes to shoot parties and events. I used to love doing parties and events. And when I'd send back the quote, they'd say, and I heard this a couple of times. Oh, look, don't worry, I think I'll just get my sister to use her phone. Is this another step in that? Oh, don't worry, I'll just get AI to make the photos because your quote is unreasonable. I think your quote's unreasonable.
Anyway. I think that will be one of the last things is like events, like weddings. Weddings aren't, no one's going to want fake wedding photos. They might, you could maybe go to the point where a wedding photographer could do it on a phone and everything gets enhanced by AI, maybe, but like to the point where you don't have someone there to document it, that's probably not going to happen. Sports photography, not going to happen. No one wants to see an AI rendition of, the game-winning goal. Like, it's like there's things that are very, very safe, but it's probably more those like, headshots is an easy one. A lot of people want a proper headshot, but there'll be some people that are like, it's just for a quick LinkedIn thing. It's going to be tiny. I don't care. I can do it on my phone and then press headshot and it's good enough,
It's when that authenticity is important. And I think there are some things that are immune to it. Headshots, especially for well-known figures, that you can't use AI on those sort of things. But and events, I think, are going to be relatively immune. But most other things, I mean, look at the value of stock photos. When I was a teenager, I would get friends used to send me the stock library book, and it used to be a book, and you'd leaf through all of these glorious, tobacco filter sunsets. It was back then in the 80s. And these photos were like £600. It was. I was in the UK. £600-800 to license one of these images. Look how cheap it is now by comparison. And look at how much of those stock photos are AI generated, because it's a commodity as opposed to something that has an intrinsic value.
Yep, spot on. Just before we move towards the end of today's show, should we just jump into some comments? There's some comments about about AI discussion.
There was. Me Amuse says, if you want to see the impact of AI, have a look at the comments on the Coca-Cola Holidays Are Coming YouTube video from this year. Did either of you see that?
Yeah, copped a lot of flack.
Yes.
Because it was atrocious. Second year in a row they've done it. They got just as much heat last year, and they went into the previous year, and they've done it again.
It's funny. I googled it, and it actually doesn't really even come up that easy.
They might have tried to erase it.
Like, did they try and get rid of it? Was this? Are they hiding it? Oh yeah.
Well, it's they're one of the most high value businesses on the planet, and it would have been lovely to see them make something truly magical with that money in terms of advertising. If you're gonna, but they went the other way. They went for the cheap option.
Yeah,
creating content.
And apparently it wasn't cheap. That was the way they defended it. They were like, this took a lot of work and all this stuff. And it's, I don't know. One of the big things there's trucks in it, and the axles kept changing in the on the trucks, like in different shots. There'd be 3 axles and then 2 axles or whatever. And this was a big budget. Hang on, let me just bring it up a little bit. Just flick through a couple of shots. It was a big budget thing. So like, I don't know where the axles change, but yeah, it was all AI where they did this and then they turned into real trucks. And so I think that truck has a double axle, then a single axle, and then there's polar bears. And then here's some more trucks. Oh, surprised. Little animals, whatever those are. And then, hang on, and then this one's got a triple axle and then nothing else. No rear axle. And then, hang on, this crazy. One's got, that one went back to just a double axle at the back. And I'm really surprised. And then these ones all have the single double. Yeah, single double. So yeah, single double. And then this one's got a double double. It's kind of crazy that no one caught that. Then this one's got single, and then triple. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's double double. It's like different teams worked on the trucks in different things or whatever. But yeah, anyway.
Oh, but look at the production value of that, isn't it? Oh, it's like a KFC meal. It's got all the things you need. It's got cute animals. It's got eye contact. The colors, the composition. It's scary how good it is, isn't it? It's all AI generated, and we have to look at the axles to find the problem with it.
And that is true. That is true. If you look at it from that, it's a technological marvel that AI created it, but it's also weird that Coca-Cola would, when they have such a big budget, and I think they spent quite a big budget on this. I assume they did it because to be able to say it was fully AI generated, they know probably will stir up enough word of mouth.
People look at it anyway.
People will look at it anyway and be like, oh, it was fully created with the AI. Look at the axles. Oh, they're wrong and blah, blah, blah. And it's like all publicity is good publicity, maybe. You know, it's got 11,600 comments.
How many views does it say?
2.3 million, which is like, But like, the unintended irony of using real magic as the tagline is hilarious. That's a good comment. Yeah.
And Mia Muse said in the chat that the best comment I saw, maybe your tagline shouldn't be always the real thing.
True. Then nothing says Christmas quite like Dad got fired because AI replaced him to do animation. Yeah, that's a good one. Anyway, there's some good. The most profitable commercial in Pepsi's history. Yeah, good one. See, the thing with the internet is, even if AI ruins everything, the comments can still bring the joy for us.
Bring the humanity back into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does. Really, it really does. Serious that is.
If 2.3 million people watch a video, there's a small handful of them are going to be hilarious. Hilarious characters.
Yeah.
I actually had a question for Greg, if you've got time for it, because Greg, you say you're right, and I've always wondered why we have wedding photographers, but we don't have wedding poets, because we say that we're trying to capture the essence of what you're doing. And I don't know your type of writing and if you photograph weddings as well, but I've always wondered why we don't have wedding poets.
Oh gosh, I've never been asked that question or considered it. It is interesting, you know. We at the end of last year we held a competition, photo of the year, and so we invited our viewers and subscribers and anyone that wanted to be involved to submit one photo, their best photo, what they thought was their best photo. But we also asked them to include context in writing. Give us a little spiel about not just camera settings, but or where it was, but what was going on for you as the experience. And we've been leaning into that a lot on this channel more recently about the experience. And I think for me, I mean, the images were remarkable. It showed such a diverse array of talent and insight into our craft and how people view the world. But the words were the ones that really hit us emotionally. I mean, some of the images certainly did, but when you paired it with the words, that's when you got the goosebumps, and a couple of them I teared up over because they were so powerful. And sometimes we don't see that, or we often don't see that, the context of a remarkable image, hearing the artist's statement about their experience in framing this, and often we lose that. We just look purely at the 2D image and go, oh, well, that's good or that's bad, or yeah, so what, it's a tree. But what if that tree was planted on your family property and it's been there for 5 generations? And the story is that every generation built a tree house in that tree. And, like you lose that art of describing what you're seeing. And sometimes the picture speaks, it's that whole thing, picture, what is it? Tells 1,000 words or speaks 1,000 words. But I don't agree with that. Sometimes it needs to hear what the photographer was experiencing. And we will lose that with AI because no one actually experienced it.
Yeah.
It was imagined by a computer,
Yeah.
Yes, we gave it the seed, perhaps, but, so yeah, it's a good question. I don't know why people don't hire, maybe because it's not the Middle Ages, but
there are some celebrants that do take their craft to a closer level to that. So some of the celebrants that I used to work with, they don't sort of just do the cliche stuff. They do quite a bit of it, like an interview with the bride and the groom, and then write a bit of a love story to talk about, especially in the like the less religious weddings. If it's a wedding with sort of zero religious stuff and it's all just about the ceremony itself, there are some celebrants that take quite a bit of pride in the way that they craft their story that they tell on the day as part of the ceremony. So that's probably the closest thing to it, that it ends up getting handled by the celebrant for their words that they speak on the day.
No, awesome. Thank you for that. I've always found it curious because we mark it as if we're doing the same job, but I've always wondered why. Yeah, perhaps it's
telling stories about the day. Yeah. Well, Justin, the next time you or Jim do a wedding, could you? I'll tag along.
Yeah, just write a poem.
My quill and parchment,
and you can unscroll it at the end of the day and just be like, "All right, everyone, listen to this."
Yeah.
They're all dancing on the dance floor.
No one gives a shit.
All right. Well, Dean, it's almost 2 hours. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? What's your favorite Fujifilm lens?
Yes, please.
It is the. Oh, I've got 2 now. The 70-200 equivalent.
What's that?
50 to 140.
That's 50 to 140.
40.
Yeah, it's great. I've broken it so many times. Literally, I think I've got a frequent repairer's stamp on the thing now for the number of times I've broken the thing. But it's still the original lens. Well, part of it is the original. The rear lens cap is original. But I love it. It's sharp. It focuses close, focuses quickly, and it's much less backbreaking than the full frame 70-200s. And so I just love that focal length more, and so that's a good lens. But I've also recently fallen in love with the Fuji 23, so a 35mm equivalent.
The 1.4. I'm about to buy that.
It's been an eye opener for me because I've never understood the 35mm focal length properly, and what I realised is it's actually a 50 with context. So I'd always thought I've thought of it as a wide angle. And it's not. If you shoot it exactly like a 50, but have a bit more story around it, because 50 was what I grew up with and I love, and so 50 has always been my natural. And now 50 is way too tight for me. The 35 tells enough story. It's exactly the same photo that I would have taken with the 50, but now it has enough context. And that lens is so sharp, focuses so quickly. If I had one lens, it will be the 23, Fuji 23, but the two together are the complements of each other. Yeah. So I've got my people background destroying 70-200 equivalent, and the 23, which is just enough context and story. But that's actually a recent discovery in the last few years for me, that the 35 is actually a 50 with context.
Yeah. The 23 is my favorite focal length with Fujifilm. I've been to Japan a couple of times. Actually, regarding the 50 to 140, which is a constant f2.8 for those of you playing along at home, one drunken night in Kyoto, I walked into Yodobashi camera and accidentally walked out with that lens. I got back to my hotel room and went to do something with my credit card, and it had been, cancelled by my bank because they thought it was a scam. So then I had to try drunkenly work that out too. Anyway, I don't drink anymore for various reasons. But that 23, it's the original 23 was absolutely gorgeous. It was the first Fuji Prime I bought because it had the manual focus clutch, where you basically drop the focus ring and it would become the manual focus and then back up into auto. So beautiful. But I'm now looking at the 23-1.4 because I too love that focal length for those exact reasons. It's a 50, but with context. Yeah. Love it.
No, it's a delicious lens.
Yeah, have you ever shot with a 28, Dean? 28 equivalent lens?
Yeah, and I have a 28 f2, and it's a Nikon AID lens, which means it's one of the really old ones, and they've like bolted on something to link with the old, and it's an old lens. It's older than I am. That one. It's from the early 70s. That one. And I liked it, but it was, for me, it was neither fish nor fowl. And I like 21 and I like 35 in full frame equivalence. This is, and 28 is kind of two in the middle. It's not wide enough to be. So I've never really enjoyed it enough. It's not 50 enough. So that's I own it, and I don't think I've touched it in years.
Yeah, it's interesting because what you said about 35 being a 50 with context really makes sense. And I find that the 28 is a 35 with context. It allows me to just step into the scene just a tiny bit more. It's a little bit less flat, and there's a little bit more context around the scene. So I've sort of tried to use 35 a lot, and I've never quite gelled with it. But then 28 seems to make sense. It's wide enough to get that little bit more of the scene, but not, whereas like 24 and down I flip into like wide angle mode, and it's a different feel, whereas 28 still kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, but like flat enough for it to be a scene. But 35 was a little bit too tight for most things. Otherwise, usually with the 35, I'm like, I might as well have a 50. Whereas the 28 gives me enough context around it that I feel like it's a different enough focal length to the 50. So anyway, very interesting. Yeah. Do
you find that people slide down the scale? Next year, if I come back, am I going to be saying, actually, I need a 15 now? Is it this like a drug scale?
To a point, it wouldn't surprise me depending on what you're shooting with it, it wouldn't surprise me, because I think that's what I've experienced, is that like you sort of get bored with singling out subjects sometimes, and then the wider you go, the harder it is to create the scene that you're looking for, especially if you're doing like street photography or something like that, or something where you have less control. The wider the lens is. Yeah, so that is what I've found. Where it's like, a 28 is not something that a newer photographer will maybe like as much as, say, a 50. Yeah. And then as time goes on, you're sort of like, I kind of want a bit more in this. I want to find more of a story in this. And then maybe, I don't know, you'll let me know. Let me know if you end up being like, I'm going to go wider.
More context.
More context. Whereas, like a 20 is pretty, a 20 is fun. But it's definitely a little bit too wide for me to use as like a general purpose. It's more of it starts to have a bit more specialty. Interesting.
Yeah. No, I look back on my early work recently, and I used the 70-200 as a crutch for exactly the reasons that you've specified. You're just isolating one side. It's easier, and I used to use it as a crutch. I now can use it better, but at first it was exactly that. My shots looked good because I was using that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
because you're removing everything else that could be a problem in the frame. Yeah,
Exactly. It was a tool for sure. Like when I first started shooting weddings, the 7200 was like that was the savior of like, okay, I can just get in close. Everyone will be like, wow, that looks amazing.
Exactly.
And yeah, whereas as time went on, went from using a 70 to 200 to a 105 1.4 Nikon, which was amazing for a similar reason, but it had a bit more context around it, but you could still obliterate the background. And then, Jim and I both ended up shooting a ton of stuff on a 28 and a 50, and then using the 105 for like just to kind of punch in on stuff or when the background sucks, but 28 and 50 a lot through the day. And it was that evolution of sort of, I guess, getting better at what you do, putting yourself in better positions, understanding light more. Just a natural thing.
Interesting comment here from Mia Muse again. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks to everyone for tuning in, whether you're live with us here today or you're watching this back or even listening to this back on a road trip. Lots of people do that.
Drive safe.
I find that the focal length changes depending on the mood I am in. Longer focal lengths naturally simplify scenes, and I think of anything at 50 and above as voyeuristic. Interesting take on it.
That is true. Like you feel a little bit disconnected from the scene at 50 and above.
She's stepping away, but you're really stepping in, just secretly.
Yeah, I think that's a sound comment.
I'd agree. I'd agree with that. Whereas it's hard to be voyeuristic with a 35 or a 28 or something. It's sort of like people are going to know you're there. You're sort of you're in it. You're in it. You're part of it.
Yeah, it's obvious that you're pointing a camera at them. Well, I think that might be a natural place to tie a bow in this episode. What do you think, Jay?
I think so. I mean, unless there's is there anything else you want to talk about, Dean, or anything you've got coming up that we should keep an eye out, not on social media for?
Keep it. Watch out for the Raven coming with the news of the latest course and the latest product. I've been toying with the idea of developing a course for iPad editing. And I don't know what your thoughts are on whether that would work as a sort of traveling photographer's thing, because I've got a recent one and they're actually quite good, but it's getting the stuff on and off it. I find
unless you've got the latest Pro, it's very hard to work with.
Are you talking about for like Lightroom or for just general, like on the in the app, like the what's it called, like the Photos app or whatever? Or are you talking about like Lightroom?
Using Lightroom and using it as the traveling photographer's companion.
Well, if you could make it so that I could understand how they work together, Lightroom Classic and Lightroom, the iPad one, so that I can figure out what the hell I'm doing with my different stuff, because I want some of it on my iPad, but not all of it, and I'm trying to sync some of it, and then I don't understand how presets work. Yes, that would be amazing, because I tried to tackle it one day. I'm like, I'm finally going to get everything synced up, and sometimes I'll use my iPad, but it'll work and stuff. Couldn't figure it out. I watched a few videos and
I think there's a market there for it, because a lot of people, that I've noticed, as they age, they move from taking photos and editing photos on their smartphone to working with an iPad, because it's a bigger screen, it's better for their eyes. So there might be a market. I think there is a market there for maybe not younger people, but as the grey nomads start traveling more and not taking a camera, but taking a smart device. I definitely think there's a market there for it. And, the editing on iOS is becoming so good. And again, partly thanks to AI. But I've been using my iPhone more and editing on my iPhone. And often people are saying, did you take that with your Fuji? And I say, no, actually, that was just on the smartphone. Edited, taken, edited, uploaded. And I think there's a lot to lean into from a business point of view to help people do that better. That's my idea.
Great.
I definitely think there's something there for sure, because I'm sure there's people that I just couldn't find any useful information for me that made sense to me, especially from what would really make sense to me is if you're a Lightroom Classic desktop user, here's the course you need for iPad, which is different to you've never edited before. Here's how you edit on your iPad course. And they're sort of two different things. And I think I constantly ended up with the ones that were like, here's my iPad workflow. And I'm like, cool, I understand that side of it. How does it work with what I already do? and my existing stuff, and that mindset of like, you already know how the tools work. Here's what's different, and here's how they sync together. Gosh, I'd buy that in a second.
Yeah, how to add the iPad into your existing workflow.
Yes.
Yep.
So you can leave the desktop, like leave the laptop at home, or if you've got a desktop or whatever, and just travel with your iPad. But then it all seamlessly, when you get home, here's what you do. When you get home, press this button, do this, sync that, and they'll all be on your desktop, or however that works. Yes, please.
Cool. Watch this space. Wait for the
Well,
raven.
there you go, folks.
Wait for the raven.
We'll get you back in. We'll wait for the raven.
Actually,
or the smoke signals.
No, instead of the raven, if you could just email us when it's ready, and we'll get you back on the show, and then we'll just talk about it and know where to go. That'd be amazing.
You're on.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I've actually had a ball.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks very much for coming on. And sorry for the switcheroo on daylight savings time. We're going to talk to the Victorian government about abolishing it, because I don't like daylight savings personally. Everyone else loves it. All my friends love it. I'm like getting ready for bed and it's still light outside, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like light at 9:20, and I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
I think Sash and I went to bed at that time last night. It was like, gosh, the sun's still
light.
out.
The sun's still out. Why are we doing this?
Might be an age
Anyway.
thing. Might be an
You
age
feel like
thing,
you're 7 again.
Yeah. Prime
Or like-
possums on TV, guys. Time to go to bed.
Going back to our medieval, wedding poets, we're going to sleep with the sun and we're waking with the sun. That's the way it's meant to be. But look, on that note, I do want to thank you, Dean, and please everyone in the chat who's watching now or later, please make sure you leave a comment of thanks to Dr. Dean Holland. I know I can't speak for everyone, but I know that my cup is certainly full of insight and inspiration. Really got that terribly wrong. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and certainly a lot to think about after our discussion today. And yes, we would love to have you back in the future if you want to come back and tell us what's happening and what offerings you've got going on. I'm sure folks would love to learn more about you and how you've mastered your craft and business for that matter. Jay, do you want to say goodbye to some people?
Yeah, I'll play some music on the way out, but otherwise we'll catch you guys not on Monday, but next Thursday for the next episode. Thank you very much, Dean. You're amazing. Appreciate your time, and keep on doing what you do.
Yeah.
And
thanks, mate.
Thanks to the drunk wedding photographer. Good to see you again. Mia Muse will have to go back and watch from the beginning. Yeah, do that. That would be good.
Yeah.
And also says statistically there are a lot more accidents caused by daylight savings. Exactly. Robert Varner, good to see you. Philip Johnson, thanks Justin, thanks Greg, and special thanks Dean. Who else did we have? Oh, Paul. Paul said Coca-Cola has poor quality control on their AI. I agree. Yeah. Who else was here today? David Leparati was here. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Signed in late. We'll catch up later. Good to see you.
Rodney Nicholson. Lisa Leach joined us.
Tin Type Man. Oh, yeah, Lisa Leach. I spotted her before. Yeah. Catherine. Everybody. It was great to have you all here. And we'll see you all on the next one.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps a lot. Thanks, guys. Be safe.
See ya.
Cheers.